Hi, and welcome to What Is That? With me, Samantha, your host. So basically in this episode of What Is That? I'm going to delve into this crazy world of tarantism and speculate as to how this dance that was caused by a non-poisonous spider could be such a crazy dancing mania that affected so many Italian peasants from the 14th century, which later died out in the 18th century. So in my research, I came across this book called Ritual, Rapture, and Remorse, a study of tarantism and pizzica in Salento by this crazy smart lady named Jerry Dabu. And I'm going to read you a quote real quick. She says, "This ritual has been performed over many centuries as a cure for someone bitten by the tarantula spider. The person who is bitten, known as the tarantato, if male, or the tarantata, if female, falls into a state of illness as a result of the poison from the bite. Symptoms can include nausea, paralysis, lethargy, spasms, headaches, irregular pulse and breathing, and fainting." End quote. So the root of this is this thing called tarantism, in which Italian peasants, like real peasants, believed that they were bitten by the tarantella, the tarantula, and so the poison, they believed, went into their bodies and made them do all these like crazy dance moves, and it was known as a dancing mania, and it swept the land and caused a huge epidemic in the Apulia region of Italy. It was crazy. So according to Dabu, there are little to no clearing counts made by the tarantati, ones who were bitten by the spider. So it remains unclear what tarantism is and is not. Only interpretations, quote, appropriated and debated by the writers as a means for expounding their own framework of thought, end quote, exist today. So basically there are two types of spiders, the Latrodectus tarantula and the Lycosa tarantula, that inhabit the Apulia region of Italy, in which these tarantism attacks took place from the 14th century to the 18th century, where it ultimately died out. So both species of spiders are still there in the Apulia region of Italy. The former is a, quote, non-aggressive, slow-moving spider common to Apulia that can produce psychoactive effects in people in its bites. In severe cases, it may temporarily mimic many tarantism symptoms, including twitching and shaking of limbs, weakness, nausea, and muscular pain. Ironically, it is the latter, the Lycosa tarantula, that was often blamed for these acts of tarantism because it is, quote, larger, more aggressive, ferocious in appearance, and has a painful bite. Neither of these spiders can truly account for the dancing mania because they are found in other countries where no records of dancing mania or tarantism take place, including the United States. So what we can determine, since we do not live in a world full of like Harry Potter magic and Disney World fantasies, although I love them, is that a mere spider bite cannot be responsible for such a fit of hysteria that would have the afflicted dancing for days on end until they felt they were, quote unquote, cured. So in another article that I found called The Dissecting Room, entitled Discarded Diagnosis, Tarantism by Bill Bynum, he writes that by the end of the 18th century, tarantism had become a rare phenomenon, even if outbreaks were still recorded in modern times. The fact that the tarantula's bite in other places had no similar effect lent credence to the comfortable diagnosis of mass hysteria, end quote. This further debunks, for me, the medieval conclusion that tarantism could have been the result of a mere spider bite and really played more to psychological issues of the time and sparked by other factors, including the masses, the mind, music, and the body's response to it, which I will get more into now. So basically, the element of music was a huge factor in tarantism and would act as a catalyst for the dancers and the crowd. The music was basically the driving force for these occurrences. And I'm going to quote my girl Jerry Dabu one more time. She says, "The musicians continue to play in a crescendo as the tarantato, the person being afflicted, gradually becomes more and more active, seeming to, quote, wake up from a state of trance, crawling along the floor, beating the ground in time to the rhythm of the tamburella, the tambourine, sometimes arching in a bridge position, imitating the movements of a spider. The way the music was played out directly assisted and influenced the dancers in their journey to becoming relieved and ridding the poison from their bodies. The quick pace, the building nature of the music of the tarantella accelerated the movement of the afflicted, allowing them to rid themselves of the poison from their bodies through perspiration. So it all came together to essentially help the dancer become relieved. So now I'm going to show you an exclusive little clip of what I think tarantism would look like today. Bananas, huh? So basically with tarantism, we see the meshing of both dancing mania and a kind of mass hysteria that would take a hold of those witnessing the frenetic dancing of the tarantati, fueled by the ethnographic stresses that people were experiencing of that time. So this subconsciously or otherwise pulled crowds into the same frenzied state as the Italian citizens who believed that they were bitten. So basically, whole towns would gather to witness and support the tarantati in their wild state. And at the end of the sort of like exorcism, if you will, of poison, those going through their bout of tarantism would come out at the end of the tunnel, both refreshed and renewed. So at this point in my research, I just still wasn't satisfied an understanding as to how something like this could have happened from a non-poisonous spider bite. So I dug a little deeper. So with my really sleuthy digging, I came across a Time magazine article dating back to May 3rd, 1943, which detailed the fan mania surrounding this like really young, hip musician at the time named Harry James. And it drew an unlikely parallel to the dancing mania of tarantism. So essentially, the mania that him and his music could draw drew crowds and affected the audience members in a very similar fashion as seen in the events of tarantism, which reached its peak in the 17th century. It's crazy. And so the article describes the behavior of Harry James' fans as such. Quote, "Jitterbugs called his name, gripped their hands, seethed in their seats. He began to blow. They swayed, moaned, and pulsed, and throbbed. Sometimes everyone clapped their hands and stomped their feet." End quote. A spectacle such as this has an uncanny resemblance to the depictions of community tarantism. In fact, I would venture to say that the aforementioned quote has extremely similar language to writings I have researched on tarantism and dancing mania. So the Time article also wanted to know how these two were connected and how it's shown up throughout history. So they interviewed a neurologist who decided to remain undisclosed as to his name. Here's the quote. "All of life, all of humanity, the cosmos itself, is built upon the beat principle. Its appeal is closely connected with mob hysteria, for you see the same responses in Germany in the Nuremberg reigns, for example, where the multitudes are swung together under control in a certain direction. One of the secrets of Hitler's power as an orator is in his reiteration, in the beat, the pulse, the rhythm. What he says does not matter, end quote. The idea of crowd mentality and the ability of beat or music for that matter, being able to swing a crowd to behave in a certain way, has been evident in the fans of Harry James, in the speeches of Hitler, and is surely evident in the music of the Tarantella that helped fuel the Tarantati dancers. So, in conclusion, all of these different factors play a part in how these dancing manias get started and sweep nations throughout centuries, such as Tarantism. But we have also learned that we see this throughout history and many other forms. Pretty crazy. Anyway, I hope you learned something on this episode of What Is That? With me, Samantha.